Richard, thank you so much for coming in to the Atlanta Tech Village today. I'm super excited to just to spend the next 20, 30 minutes just hearing about your experience at leading Aprio, super fast growth firm, one of the leading firms in the industry. And but why don't we just jump in and share with me a little bit about, introduce Aprio, but also a little bit about the why, right? And also I'd love from you, from a leadership perspective as a CEO, managing partner, about your why. Let's jump in there.
John, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at Atlanta Tech Village with you.
Yeah.
So from an Aprio perspective, the mission of Aprio is to be a premier CPA-led advisory firm with thriving associates serving thriving clients nationally and globally. Today, we're getting close to and approaching 1,000 people.
Wow.
With operations up and down the East Coast, employees and partners across about 35 states. And new next week, well, by the time this airs on April 1st, a team of 90 people in the Philippines growing to 150 people.
Congrats.
And our purpose is to really just create client impacts. We have 4 pillars to our strategy, which is growth, create client impacts, creating a great client and team member experience, which you guys help us with at Cool Leaf.
Yeah.
And then making sure we have an infrastructure that is designed and in place to support the growth and those experiences and those impacts for our clients.
Yeah.
As a CEO, I've been with our firm. I know this is crazy because probably most people watching this don't know people like me, but I've been with our firm for more than 30 years.
30 years, all
and
right.
The business has been around for 70. And I took over as CEO a little more than 9 years ago. And in that 9-year period, we've gone from a single office here in Atlanta at the Concourse, roughly around $55 million in revenue in just that one office. And today, or by July 1st, we'll be probably 14 offices and about $250 million in revenue.
Wow.
So quite a lot of growth in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a little bit, hopefully that gives a little bit, at least a
that's helpful. You've kind of alluded to it, and I know that the firm has just had significant growth. I think that I saw recently 35th largest accounting firm in the nation, now at a global scale, right? But yet, so you've had this growth, almost 1,000 employees. But I think I saw you were the only accounting firm as ranked as a top workplace on Glassdoor. So from what I'm hearing from other leaders, when you have this growth, the culture can suffer, right? Or you have challenges, right? So talk to us a little bit about what this growth experience has been like, and has that impacted culture? Is that how do you guys are intentional about that?
Yeah. So 6-7 years ago, when we put our 2020 strategy together, now we have our 2025 strategy.
Yeah.
We were very focused on a number of things. One of them, as you mentioned, was culture. And we said at the beginning, we wanted to be a best places to work. If the recognition came with that, that would be great. But that wasn't the reason we weren't doing it to get our name
just
on the
internally.
list.
We
want to be a place that people want to, we want to be a place people want to do business with us, both our employees, our partners, our vendors, our strategic partners, and our clients. We want to be a place that people are enjoying spending time.
Yeah.
We all spend a lot of time at work, right?
Yeah.
So we might as well have a good time while we're there.
Yeah.
And we want to do business with clients that we enjoy them and they enjoy us as well. So we started that out, and part of it sort of happened when we changed the name of the firm from Alphabet Soup to Aprio 6 years ago, in that we wanted to bring that to life. And so we've been very purposeful in the design of the culture with what we refer to as 31 fundamentals, or the Aprio way. And it's not just names on the wall, like you have one above you that says "Make it work," then make it better.
We got the cachet, literally the name on the wall, right?
Right. You have statements on the wall. So for us, it's about the rituals, the day-to-day rituals that allow us to practice and live these fundamentals and truly practice them and talk about them. Culture for me is about the stories that people inside and outside the organization tell. And our fundamentals provide an avenue and a regular reoccurring cadence of people sharing stories with their team, with people we do business with. And so that starts to become the language that we're using around the firm.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends and colleagues have asked me, so you're doing all these transactions, we've done 11 or 12, the culture's got to be the hardest part.
Right.
And it's actually not been the hardest part. I think it's been actually one of the easier parts because we have a institutionalized methodology in place to just take it from one group to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, a couple things just stood out to me there. One is stories, right? And because I know that, you can tell me a lot, but I remember a story, right? It sticks with me. Yeah. And then you said rituals, right? And so it's like, this is living out that fundamental, right? Telling a story about how that fundamental had an impact on a customer or a colleague. And so now when you have new hires coming in, they're hearing about these stories, right? And that's how, I don't want to take words in your mouth, but that's how they're bringing them to life, right? These fundamentals. Am I kind of following you there?
It's exactly right.
Okay, that's interesting.
I can tell you stories I heard when we first started doing this to a story I heard 2 days ago when we had a partner meeting. Yeah. And that's exactly right. Because you remember things that are passionate, that are real, that happened.
Yeah, no, I like it because I hear from a lot of people, it's the core values at a company might be just a poster on a wall, right? And so how do you make them real, right? And I feel like you make them real by having them shared through a story of something happened in real life. This person had this encounter with this customer, and this is what that core value or fundamental, means, right? And so then it's, that's what that means to me in my role, right? So I like it. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it just, sometimes it's, it seems so complex, but you just simple it down, and you're telling stories about living these out in the real world and the real roles, right? So it makes sense. I like it. I like it.
And it's not. And the other thing is not top down. It's everybody's telling these around the organization. Yeah.
The other thing that you mentioned was that you mentioned the shift to the name Aprio, right? And most accounting firms that I'm familiar with, it's just a combination of the partners' last names, right? So even in the name itself, there's a uniqueness there, right? And so tell us a little bit more about that shift. It sounded like the leadership team decided, hey, we're going to be intentional about our culture. We want to be a best place, a top workplace internally. And the brand even shifted with that. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, like most firms, we were in business for I shouldn't say most firms being in business as long as we were, but we were in business for 65 years. And like most firms, we were alphabet soup. That's what I call it. Yeah. We had gone from our names to the 3 letters, and we were just 3 initials, HAW.
HAW.
And we looked
at it. I remember.
Look, we had in Atlanta, we had that brand had phenomenal name recognition. Mm-hmm. As we looked at where we were going next, and we looked at a physical expansion of offices into new markets. And as we looked at transforming from a CPA firm to a CPA-led advisory firm, and our advisory revenue continues to scale at a faster pace than other parts of the organization organically, we looked at it and said, how do we do that? Where do we get market permission? And also every time I went to a new market to have a conversation with someone about merging, they wanted to know if Smith was going to be tagged on to our name, so we were going to be HAWNS.
Alphabet soup.
Alphabet soup. And since we've changed the name to Aprio, that discussion has never happened.
Okay.
That question's never come up since we made the shift. That's just a byproduct of it.
Right.
But we wanted to be purposeful about, where we were going, how we were viewed. And so we have this, unique name that stands for head and heart. It came from the Latin root word of cap and aria, the Italian song of the heart. So we changed some letters around, dropped off to C, and that's how we ended up with Aprio, and our fundamentals all tie into the brand message.
I like it. Okay. Yeah, very cool. Head and the heart. This is great, Richard. I have to. It's something that everyone's talking about right now, so I want to get your feedback on this. But the Great Resignation, right? So
or the Great Retention.
The Great Retention. I'm hearing it from a lot of leaders. Just how you retain talent is top of mind right now. How you attract talent. How has this impacted your firm? Is there any changes that you guys have made, or just kind of give us your experience when it comes to the Great Resignation, or the inverse, the Great Retention, which is obviously what we're focused on.
Yeah, I think we're all trying to figure this. We're all working at figuring this out.
Yeah.
And what is the world going to look like as we come to an end of the pandemic as we've experienced it, with a lot of things being closed and restricted. In fact, I was with a friend of mine yesterday. He's in the travel business, and he brings people from the U.S. on tour in Europe, and he said they're sold out. They can't even find hotel rooms.
Wow.
So people are definitely starting to get, as we all know, get out more often.
Yeah.
From an Aprio perspective, we experienced very similar turnover between 2019 all the way through 2022 so far where we are today. It hasn't changed a lot. We continue to invest heavily in learning and development and upskilling and providing opportunities for our people and creating automation to take away the mundane tasks so that our people can focus on things that are interesting to them and things that allow them to grow professionally and explore the business world, and not just sitting down and what I call pecking at a keyboard.
Yep.
And there's still a lot of work to be done in, I think, many professional service professions to get there, get all the way there. We're working towards that every single day.
Yep.
And again, investing heavy in learning and development. And we were an organization that never, over the past 2 years, have said, okay, we're coming all back to the office at X date. We just never made those announcements. Lots of big companies, as we know, made those announcements, and then they dialed them back, and then they made them again and dialed them back. It was this circle. And I just kept looking at it going, I'm just going to wait and see how this continues to unfold as this starts to come to an end. And at least here in Atlanta, our lease was up, so we're moving space and we're shrinking it. We're going to a different format, more of something that looks like Atlanta Tech Village.
Okay. All right.
Not quite, not quite like this, but a lot of hub space and a lot of space where people can meet and collaborate. And you don't need to be there, every single day. In fact, we don't have seats for everybody to be there every day. Right?
Okay.
So we're living that anticipation of being more in a virtual environment. And today versus 2 years ago, we had maybe 70 or 80 people that were working remote full time. And now we're probably coming close to 200.
Just full time.
That are full-time remote, live in, we have people, as I said earlier, in more than 35 states today. We only have offices in 6.
And was this a decision to kind of move more of a work from anywhere kind of strategy based on the most recently the pandemic and the Great Resignation? Or I believe you guys even had talked about this even before that, though.
It's a great reminder for me. So about 5-6 years ago, when we set down the path on our 2020 plan, we were talking about even then having an anytime, anywhere work environment. And we put Zoom in and got rid of our phones before the pandemic, and we were already preparing and moving towards that as an environment for us. because our client base today, and even 4 or 5 years ago, our client base is national, even though we have offices in 6 states, and our clients do business in and out of over 50 countries today.
Wow.
And they did then too. So we were already thinking more on a global scale. And so that's the environment we created. And through the pandemic, more of our people got comfortable with having more remote people. And so we started hiring all over the country.
Okay. Wow.
And it's been a great experience.
Yeah. And so it's, I mean, it sounds like you were ahead of the curve there for sure, in terms of just planning the work from anywhere. But did that coincide with the decision around moving the name to Aprio, around saying, hey, we want to be part of this top workplace? And part of that is we want to have flexibility from a work from anywhere, or was that separate? I'm just curious how those kind of came together.
I think it was all put together as part of our 2020 plan, right?
Okay.
Change the name, look more innovative, act more innovative, implement the fundamentals, heading towards being recognized internally as the best places to work, creating an environment that we're not limited by a physical location, start thinking more nationally and globally, and not as we don't have to focus just on the local environment we're in.
Right.
That was all part of those 4 pillars of growth, creating the client impact, the extraordinary experience for our people, and making sure we have the infrastructure to support it.
Yeah. And I liked what you said around learning and development as well, being intentional about, the Great Retention versus the Great Resignation. It sounds like that's just something that has become a priority.
It's become a priority. We have, a growing team in L&D. We've launched some really innovative programs. Earlier, sort of middle of 2021, we launched something called the Citizen Data Science Program. And we've had our first cohort graduate of 30 people. We have, I think, 2 or 3 more cohorts in process right now, where we're teaching people not to program, but to identify and understand where the work that they're doing can be enabled through technology, and how to identify those opportunities and bring the development team in to put it in place. Yeah. And bringing the organization and our workflow forward in a more modern way, which is not typical within my profession.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking this sounds more of a tech company, or something along those lines, right? Which is a compliment, by the way.
Well, every company is a tech company. Yeah, and people who don't think that.
That's I love that. Yeah.
If people today, and I don't care what profession or work what industry you're in, if you don't think you're a tech company today, you need to rethink it, right? How do you think digital, data, automation first? You can't throw people, especially in this environment, in the Great Retention environment.
That's right.
You can't throw people at everything because 30 million people left the workforce. Yeah. So you can't throw people at problems. You have to throw other things at.
I like it. I like
challenges today.
Richard, we could dive into a lot of topics, but I want to wrap up with, just thinking about, you've had, you're leading an amazing company, Aprio, nearing now 1,000 employees. You've gone through this whole pandemic and the Great Resignation, retention. Is there any advice to other leaders, CEOs, managing partners, even in the industry, that you can share, that they can, just practical advice that they can go out and start having an impact, a positive impact with their organization? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind that everybody should be focused on is making sure that you're thanking your people. And we were talking earlier before we went on about, it's not just about putting money in the paycheck. So, the work we're doing with you guys in Cool Leaf and being able to reward and recognize our people is really helpful.
A simple thank
hopefully
you
don't
goes a long way.
Hopefully you don't mind a little plug there. Look, practical advice is everybody has to figure out what works for them, right? You cannot look at another company and say, I want to be like that company. Yep. And I'm going to do what they did, because unless you're living it and your people are exactly like them, it just doesn't work. I was with another CPA firm recently, and I handed them our 2020 strategy document from 7 years ago. And I said, here it is. So, but in today's world, in this environment, I wouldn't write that plan today. I wouldn't follow it. And even if I did, I don't think I could execute it today if I had to execute it for the next 5 years. So I think you got to look at the environment you're in. You got to look at the things, the influences around, and what your genetic makeup is, and figure out what works for you. And you have to be purposeful about every move you're making, right? How are the dots getting all connected to get to that end game? And you got to have your BHAGs, right? You got to set your sights high, and just go for it. And don't let little things stop you, and don't get wrapped up into every little detail, right? I mean, you got to think like a tech company.
And what I kind of been drawn from that is, it has to be your authentic self. You can't just look at another company and say, hey, that's going to be our culture, right? It has to. People will figure you out really quick if you're not authentic with your own values and your own culture, right?
Well, and I've experienced that before, where I see people who say, do this because it's going to result in this for us, versus here's why. And you started with a question with why Aprio, right? So why are we going to make these changes and moves? What is it, and what's in it for you? Change is great, but you go first. Right? So change is good. So I've got to go first as the CEO. And all CEOs have to go first. And then other people will look at it and go, okay, I like that behavior. I'm going to model that. And it's got to be for a reason. Not just, you can't do something because you want to be on a list. People see right through it.
I feel like in tech, it's all, what did this company do? What did that company do? And you can get caught up in that versus who are we? And then staying focused on that mission. So I really like it. Richard, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today. Really value your insights, and congratulations on all the awesome growth at Aprio. And I'm super excited that we got the opportunity to sit down together. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Always great to come to Atlanta Tech Village.
Absolutely. All right.